Hi, this is Geo Jane and I have a video for you. This is a Geo drive-by video. The drive you're going to be taking is from Seattle to Winthrop. This is in the state of Washington in the Pacific Northwest. It's an absolutely beautiful drive. It's like 200 miles long and it takes about 4 hours. The drive goes through North Cascades National Park, which is an amazingly beautiful part of our country, and it's very unique. So I'm going to tell you about the geology of it. You're driving north on I-5 from Seattle, and then at some point you're gonna cut eastward. Highway 20 to cross through the North Cascades National Park. So on I-5, as you're driving north, the geology you're driving over is related to glaciers. So there was an ice age that happened in the last 100,000 years in our past, much more relatively recent than this plate tectonics situation that I was talking about. There was a lot of glaciers in this area. They gouged out the landscape you see today. So plate tectonics is predicting what you're driving over, but glaciation predicts the route that you get to drive through this mountainous terrain. It's the glaciers that gouge those passageways, which is kind of neat to think about. So as you're driving up I-5, you're driving over glacial debris. As a Cajun, I call it glacial gradu, and it's basically just unsorted stuff that the glacier picked up and ground down as it was grinding down from the ice age. It melts back and just leaves all that stuff behind. Now, once you start turning eastward on the way to catch up with Highway 20, you're starting to drive over this North Cascades microcontinent. So you're driving over the former west coast of the North Cascades microcontinent. You're driving all the way to the former east coast. So you're going from coast to coast in this one little drive. And basically what you're driving over is just a bunch of trench stuffing. You know, it's like all the stuff that got sloughed off in this subduction zone that was going on. It gets scraped on. And so that's all trench stuffing. And all that stuff is just a chaotic mix of sediment and seafloor and just all kinds of stuff. It's wonderfully complex. Now, at some point, just past this community along Highway 20 called Marble Mount, you cross a fault. And this fault, the Straight Creek Fault, I don't know if there's going to be a highway sign about it, but once you cross that fault, things are different. On the other side of this fault, you've got the crystalline core of the North Cascades, ancient continental rock, which was that microcontinent that docked on. And so it's these beautiful mountains that you drive through, and it's an absolutely gorgeous drive. Once you're in the crystalline core, you're going to be seeing amazing mountainous spectacles. You're also going to be seeing Diablo Lake and Ross Lake, and those lakes are an incredible color. It's like a kind of more of a turquoise blue than anything else. I'll try to make another video and I'll link it in the notes about why it's that color, and this is more like a light physics talk. I'm better at talking rocks, but I'll give it a shot. And then you're gonna get to Washington Pass, which is like over a mile above sea level, and it's so pretty. You're gonna love the view. It's amazing. And then you start driving down and the road gets very straight. That's another glaciation feature. The glacier was growing and grinding and carving, and it went straight down that way. It's a very steep-sided valley. It's a very straight valley that is glacial gouge. Mazama is in an interesting it's in an interesting feature in that area, something called a graben. A graben is like a slice of crust that kind of fell down because there was two cracks on either side and it slid down, basically due to gravitational forces, because that microcontinent, when it docked on, you know, there's all kinds of forces. There's shearing and breaking and fracturing, and it was like it got ground on. The sediments in that block were actually the former east coast of the North Cascades microcontinent, and apparently the fossils that you can find in exposures of those sediments are much more tropical than the continent it docked on. So this microcontinent probably came from up to 5,000 miles away in a more southerly tropical region than the landmass it docked onto. You can't see the fossils because they're dropped down, plus there's above all those sediments is just a big old pile of glacial gradu that you get to drive over. But the big hillsides on either side of you are some ancient Jurassic marine sediments. From Mazama down that graben, just straight on down the graben, parallel to it, into Winthrop. And Winthrop is a beautiful community. The festival that you might be attending is a wonderful festival, and the grounds that it's on is on top of this glacial gradu that was left behind by the last ice age that ended about 12,000 years ago, and it's essentially just ground up material from where the glaciers were flowing from. The Methau River that runs right along the festival grounds is flowing right through that glacial till. You might find some pretty neat little rocks to stick in your pocket. I hope you enjoy this. I hope you learned a little bit. Enjoy the drive, and geology rocks.